Ladies and gentlemen, I want to begin tonight with a thought simple but powerful enough to change the entire direction of your life. And it goes like this. Before your life can obey your plans, it will first obey your picture. Write that down if you can. Your picture. Not the one your camera takes, the one you take. The one you carry quietly, silently, in the back rooms of your mind. The picture you have of yourself. Because here's the truth. Every human being lives according to the image they hold of themselves. Not the image they post online. Not the image they try to convince others of. The one they actually believe. The one they rehearse every day. Whether consciously or unconsciously. I've met people who wanted success, but they couldn't see themselves as successful. And life, has this strange habit. It refuses to give you what you can't first imagine yourself receiving. It only rises to match the picture you have accepted as true. Some people ask, Jim, why does my life look like this? And I say, take a look in the mirror, not the glass one, the mental one. The mental mirror will tell you far more about your future than the physical mirror ever could. And let me tell you how it works. The moment you change the picture, the moment you upgrade that quiet internal image, life starts rearranging itself. People change how they treat you. Opportunities begin to show up. Your habits shift. Your expectations lift. Suddenly, you notice the door that's been there for 5 years, but this time, you believe you deserve to walk through it. See, it's not magic, it's alignment. Your results cannot stay low when your self-image rises high, nor can they stay high when your self-image sinks low. Life eventually comes into harmony with your inner picture. That's why tonight we're talking about one of the great powers, a self-image so strong that your life has no choice but to obey it. And I want to make you a promise. Right here at the beginning, if you stay with me through this journey, if you take these ideas seriously, if you apply them, you will walk away with something far more valuable than motivation. You will walk away with a blueprint for becoming a person who attracts success rather than chases it. A person who commands respect rather than hopes for it. A person who lives from identity, not insecurity. So let's begin. Let's talk about the invisible mirror that is shaping everything you touch. And more importantly, let's talk about how to change it. Now, let's move to the next idea, an idea I wish someone had explained to me when I was 21, broke, and confused. If they had, I might have saved myself a few years of unnecessary struggle. And here it is. Your self-image is the silent architect of your destiny. Not your goals, not your wishes, not your positive thinking, your self-image. I tell people all the time, your life does not respond to what you want, it responds to who you are. And who you are is shaped by the picture you hold of yourself. It's invisible to the world, but it's controlling what the world can give you. Let me give you a little example. Have you ever noticed how some people will earn a little extra money and in a few months they're right back to where they started? And you wonder, what happened? Well, I'll tell you what happened. The money grew, but the self-image didn't. The income rose above their internal thermostat, and life said, let's bring this back to where you believe you belong. Or take health. Someone loses weight 20, 30 pounds. Looks fantastic. And then a year later, they're heavier than before. Why? Because they changed their diet, but they never changed their identity. They still saw themselves as unhealthy, and the outer world obeyed the inner picture. I call this the thermostat principle. If the room is set to 70 degrees and somebody opens the window, the temperature may rise or fall for a moment, but eventually the thermostat pulls the room right back where it believes it should be. Your life does the same thing. You can improve your circumstances temporarily. You can read a great book. You can get motivated by a great seminar. You can watch 100 videos on self-improvement. But unless your self-image changes, you will drift right back to the temperature you've been set at for years. Now, here's the good news. And I love good news. A thermostat can be reset. Your identity can be rewritten. Your future can be reprogrammed. But it requires understanding the 3 layers of identity. 3 layers that determine everything from your income to your confidence, your relationships to your reputation. The first layer is what you have. Money, possessions, social approval, status. Most people spend their whole life trying to fix this layer. The second layer is what you do. Your habits, your actions, your daily routine, a very important layer, but still not the deepest one. And then there's the third layer, the one that holds the real power, the layer of who you are. Your beliefs, your values, your self-worth, the picture you have of yourself. Let me tell you something. If you work only on the first layer, you'll always struggle. If you work only on the second layer, you'll get better, but inconsistently. But if you work on the third layer, your whole life begins to change. Because once identity shifts, behavior follows. And once behavior follows, results become inevitable. So tonight, I want you to remember this. Before anything changes on the outside, something must change on the inside. It changed for me when I was 25. It changed for thousands of people around the world. And it can change for you starting tonight. Now, let's go deeper. Let's talk about how this internal picture was formed, how you became who you think you are. Because if you understand where the picture came from, you can learn how to repaint it. Now, let's continue. And this next part is important, very important. Because if you're going to change the picture, you must understand how the picture was created. Most people never stop to ask themselves, how did I come to believe what I believe about myself? They treat their self-image as if it fell from the sky, fixed and permanent, but nothing could be further from the truth. Let me explain something I learned the hard way. You were being shaped long before you ever had the power to question anything. As children, we don't analyze, we absorb. We don't evaluate, we accept. And before we even know the meaning of the word identity, one is already being built for us. Maybe your parents told you, you're too shy. Maybe a teacher said, you're not smart enough. Maybe you heard, you're slow, you're lazy, you're not leadership material, you're not the type who becomes successful. And you didn't just hear these words, you became them. Let me tell you something. A child's mind is like wet cement. It doesn't take long for a footprint to harden. And then we grow up wondering why certain areas of life feel impossible, when the truth is we're still obeying messages that were planted in us 20 years ago. Then there's your environment. And this one is big. I've said it for decades. We become the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. Meaning this, your self-image is not only personal, it's social. You pick up the habits, attitudes, expectations, and limits of the people around you. If everyone around you lives small, chances are you begin to believe you should live small too. If everyone around you struggled financially, you learn to normalize struggle. If everyone complained, you learn to complain. You didn't choose those patterns, you inherited them. Now here's another one, repetition. If you hear something long enough, good or bad, you eventually accept it as true. That's how belief works. Repetition turns opinion into conviction, and conviction turns into identity. But let me give you the principle that changed my life at 25. It's not what happens that determines your future. It's what you do about what happens. You see, your early environment might have shaped you, but it does not have the right to define you. Your past may have written the first chapter, but you get to write the next 10. And this is where we begin to take control. Once you understand that your current self-image was built by accident, by childhood, by influence, by repetition, you can make a new decision to rebuild it on purpose. Tonight, I want you to accept one powerful truth. You are not the finished product. You are the designer. And now that we've uncovered where the picture came from, we can move into the real transformation the moment you stop being the product of your past and start becoming the architect of your future. Let's move to the next idea. Let's talk about the principle that changed everything for me, the principle I built my entire life on. Now let's get to one of the most life-changing ideas I ever discovered. If there's a sentence that turned my whole life around, it was this one. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. When I first heard that, I didn't understand it. I thought success was something you got by working harder on the job, longer hours, more sweat, more hustle. That's what I had been taught. But at 25 years old, broke, embarrassed, and discouraged, a mentor finally said to me, Jim, you don't get paid for your time. You get paid for the value you bring to the marketplace. And if you want to earn more, you must become more. That was the night I learned a priceless lesson. Your income is not what changes first. You change first. Then your income follows. And that's when everything clicked. I realized I had been trying to fix my wallet without fixing me, trying to improve my circumstances without improving my character, trying to earn more without learning more. Let me give you a little story. When I was 25, a Girl Scout came to my door selling cookies, and I didn't have $2 in my pocket to buy a box, so I lied to her, told her I already had cookies, said something polite, closed the door, and felt terrible. I sat there thinking, how did I get here? A grown man lying to a little girl because he's broke. That day, I said the magic words, I've had it. And from that day on, I stopped working only on my job and started working on myself. My philosophy, my habits, my mindset, my skills, my discipline, my self-image, and life started to change, not by force, but by attraction. You see, when you work harder on yourself, you're not just adding information, you're raising your value, you're increasing your confidence. You're developing a self-image that says, I belong in better rooms, I deserve better opportunities, I can handle greater responsibility, and life listens to that. People listen to that. Opportunities listen to that. You become someone worthy of more because you become more. So tonight, I want to give you the heart of the principle. Don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Don't wish for fewer problems, wish for more skills. Don't wish for more money, develop more value. Your job will pay you just enough to survive. Your self-development will pay you enough to thrive. So ask yourself, what skills am I building? What books am I reading? What disciplines am I practicing? What conversations am I having? What kind of person am I becoming? Because when you become the kind of person who naturally produces success, you no longer have to fight for it. You don't have to beg for it. You attract it. Now that we've established the foundation, the principle of personal development over external effort, we're ready for the next step. Let's talk about the blueprint. How do you actually build a powerful self-image? Step by step, deliberately, intentionally. Now that we've laid the foundation, it's time for the blueprint, the practical, step-by-step process of building a self-image so strong, so unshakable, that your life has no choice but to rise to meet it. And let me tell you, this part isn't theory. This is the part that changed my life. This is the part that changes businesses, families, and futures. And if you take it seriously, it can change yours. See, your self-image is not built in some grand moment of transformation. It's built the way a house is built, one beam, one brick, one decision at a time. So let's go through the steps. Step 1, rewrite the script. Every powerful identity begins with a rewrite. If the script you're living from is weak, your performance will be weak. If the script is outdated, your life will be outdated. I tell people you can't live a new life with an old story. You need a new story, one you write on purpose. Sit down and write the identity you want to step into. I am disciplined. I finish what I start. I am responsible with money. I am the kind of person people can depend on. I am becoming someone of value. Don't worry if it's not true yet. It's not supposed to be true. You're writing the script for who you are becoming. Never underestimate the power of a written identity. Your mind believes what you write more than what you merely think. Step 2, change the 5 people. Once you've written the script, you must protect it. And the biggest threat to your new identity is your old environment. Remember the principle. You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If your 5 complain, you will complain. If your 5 gossip, you will gossip. If your 5 have no discipline, you'll slowly lose yours. And if your 5 see you in your old identity, they'll pull you back into the old version of yourself. So start upgrading your circle. And if you say, Jim, I don't know 5 successful people, that's fine. Start with books. Start with audio. Start with mentors you may never meet. If you feed your mind what winners feed their minds, You will begin to think like a winner even before you meet one. Step 3, behave like the person you want to become. Now here's the secret. Identity is shaped more by behavior than belief. You don't wait to feel like the new you. You act like the new you and your feelings catch up. If you want to be disciplined, do one disciplined act today. If you want to be wealthy, practice one wealthy habit today. If you want to be confident, do one bold thing today. Just one. Because small acts create big identity. I call it proof. Every action is proof. And your mind collects proof the way an accountant collects receipts. Those receipts, those little acts, become the new evidence of who you are. Step 4, guard the gates. Control your inputs. Now let's talk about the gates, the eyes, and the ears. Your self-image is a garden, and the weeds grow automatically. If you don't control what enters your mind becomes a dumping ground for negativity, fear, gossip, low expectations. And you can't build a strong identity on weak inputs. So ask yourself, what am I watching? What am I reading? Who am I listening to? What am I consuming every day? If you want to improve your life, start by improving your filters. Shut the gates to the noise. Open the gates to wisdom. It will change everything. Step 5, practice daily journaling. I've taught this for years. A journal is one of the most valuable tools for personal growth. Why? Because a journal is proof of progress. It captures your new identity in the making. It keeps you accountable to yourself. It reminds you of your intentions, your goals, your new self-picture. Write down what you did today that matched your new identity, what you learned, what you won, where you need adjustment, what you're thankful for. A journal turns your thoughts into form and your form into a future. Step 6, install discipline as the backbone of identity. Let me now give you the punchline of this entire blueprint. Discipline is the engine of self-image. Nothing builds identity faster than doing what must be done, even when you don't want to do it. You can say all the affirmations you want. You can write the most beautiful identity script. You can visualize success all day long. But if there is no discipline, the identity never becomes real. I've said it 1,000 times. Affirmation without discipline is the beginning of delusion. So every day, keep your promises, especially the small ones. Those little victories shape your self-image like nothing else. When you practice discipline, you teach yourself, I can trust me. And trust in yourself is the foundation of every powerful identity. These are the steps. Rewrite the script. Change the circle. Act like the future you. Control your inputs. Journal your progress. Build discipline brick by brick. Follow this blueprint, and your self-image will start to evolve slowly at first, then rapidly, and finally permanently. Now that we've laid out how to build the identity, let's take it further. Let's talk about how identity turns into results, how the inner change creates outer transformation. Now let's move to the next major idea, and this one is essential. Because identity without results becomes fantasy. And fantasy, if you're not careful, becomes frustration. And frustration, if left alone, becomes resignation. People give up not because the dream is too big, but because the proof is too small. So let me give you the principle that ties everything together. Your identity creates your behavior. Your behavior creates your results. Your results reinforce your identity. This is what I call the proof loop, the cycle where everything begins to work in your favor. See, once you start behaving like the person you want to become, even in small ways, life begins giving you small wins. And those wins become the evidence, the proof that you are changing. And the more proof you gather, the stronger the identity becomes. And the stronger the identity becomes, the more naturally the behavior flows. It's a beautiful cycle, but someone has to start it. And that someone is you. Let me give you a few examples. Let's say you want to become a writer. You don't need to write a book this week. You just need to write 1 page. And the moment you do, your identity whispers, hey, you wrote something today. Maybe you are a writer. That's proof. You want to become wealthy? You don't need $1,000 in savings today. Just put aside 5, 10, something, and your identity whispers, you saved today. That's what financially responsible people do. That's proof. You want to become disciplined? Well, clean your desk, make your bed, go for a 10-minute walk, do one push-up. When you keep even the smallest promise, your mind says, that's who I am now. That's proof. You want to become confident? Say hello to one stranger. Speak up once in the meeting. Share one idea. And confidence says, see, that wasn't so bad. That's proof. Proof is powerful. Proof changes the inner conversation. And remember, identity follows evidence, not the other way around. You don't become confident and then act confident. You act confident and then become confident. You don't become disciplined and then do hard things. You do the hard things and then become disciplined. The proof reshapes the picture. The picture reshapes your behavior. The behavior reshapes your life. Now, let me give you a challenge. For the next 30 days, just 30 days, I want you to collect proof of your new identity. I call it the Identity Proof Challenge. Not perfection proof, not pressure proof, not a full transformation, just evidence. Every day, do one thing that demonstrates the person you are becoming. Just one. You'll be amazed. In 30 days, you won't just feel different. You won't just believe different. You will be different. Your results will start to shift gently at first, then dramatically. People will notice it. Opportunities will notice it. And in time, you will notice that life is responding to you on a new level because you are responding to life on a new level. This is the proof loop in action. And once it begins, if you keep feeding it, it becomes unstoppable. Now that we've seen how new identity creates new results, let's take it one step further. Let's talk about what happens when a person's self-image becomes so strong, so clear, so compelling, that the entire world begins to rearrange itself around it. Now let's continue. And what I'm about to share with you is one of the most remarkable discoveries I ever made about personal development. It's something I learned not from books, but from watching people, watching how life behaves around a person with a powerful sense of identity. And the discovery is this: when you strengthen your self-image, life begins to obey it, not the other way around. Let me explain. Most people live as if life comes first and identity comes second. They say things like, when I make more money, then I'll feel successful. Or, when I lose the weight, then I'll see myself as fit. Or, when the opportunity comes, then I'll become confident. But it doesn't work that way. Life doesn't lead, identity leads. Life follows. Opportunity follows. Respect follows. Success follows. Confidence follows. Discipline follows. Your whole world begins to shift the moment you shift. Let me give you one of my favorite illustrations. I call it the mountain climber story. I've used it for years. It goes like this. A man said, I will climb this mountain. They've told me it's too high, too far, too rocky, too dangerous, that nobody's done it before. But it's my mountain. I will climb it. And pretty soon you'll see me waving from the top or dead on the side because I'm not coming back. Now that's resolve. And let me tell you something about resolve. The world steps aside for the person who knows exactly who they are and where they're going. People treat you differently when you carry yourself with conviction. Opportunities expand when you speak with certainty. Doors open for people who walk like they belong there. It's not magic. It's identity. When a person develops a strong, unshakable self-image, life reorganizes around that picture the way iron filings arrange themselves around a magnet. And here's what happens when your identity becomes strong. You stop tolerating what doesn't fit your future. You stop apologizing for having standards. You stop shrinking to fit into small conversations. You stop chasing people who don't respect your value. You stop negotiating with your own potential. A strong identity commands respect not by force, but by presence. It attracts opportunities not by luck, but by alignment. It creates momentum not by chance, but by consistency. And let me tell you what else happens. The stronger your identity becomes, the faster your goals get done. Why? Because a person with identity doesn't negotiate with themselves. A disciplined identity wakes up on time. A wealthy identity manages money well. A confident identity speaks up. A healthy identity trains even on low energy days. A valuable identity keeps learning. And a committed identity finishes what it starts. Once identity is clear, behavior becomes automatic. And when behavior becomes automatic, results become predictable. Now, I don't want you to think this is some mystical idea. It's simple. Life responds to your self-expectation, and your self-expectation comes from your self-image. Raise the identity, you raise the expectation. Raise the expectation, you raise the standard. Raise the standard, you raise the results. Raise the results, and life falls into place. That's the obedience principle. Now that we've explored how life obeys a strong identity, let's look even further ahead. What happens when you deliberately design an identity for the next 5 years? What happens when you build a self-image that predicts your future instead of your past? Let's go there next. Now let's go to the next idea, an idea that has shaped leaders, entrepreneurs, parents, students, and anyone who ever decided to turn their life around with intention. And the idea is this: your future is not something you wait for. Your future is something you design. Most people drift into their future with no blueprint, no vision, no architect's plan. And when you drift, you rarely drift upward. You drift sideways, you drift down, you drift into someone else's priorities, someone else's habits, someone else's opportunities. I often tell people, if you don't design your own life plan, chances are you'll fall into someone else's, and guess what they have planned for you? Not much. So tonight, I want to give you what I call the Future Self Protocol, a process for building a self-image so clear, so compelling, so beautifully painted that your life begins moving toward it almost automatically. Because when the picture of your future is strong enough, your present becomes obedient. The 5-year identity picture. Let's start here. Who do you want to be 5 years from now? Not what you want to have, not yet. Who do you want to be? Most people skip this question, and that's why they end up chasing goals that don't change them. They chase numbers. They chase outcomes. But goals that don't make you grow are goals not worth having. So let's design an identity that will make something of you. Ask yourself in detail. Health. What kind of energy do you want? What kind of strength? Discipline? Vitality? Wealth? What kind of earner do you want to be? What kind of steward of money? What level of value do you want to bring to the marketplace? Relationships. How do you want to show up for others? What kind of partner? Friend? Parent? What kind of people will be in your circle? Skills. What talents will you master? What abilities will you sharpen? What work will you do better than most? Experiences. Where will you travel? What will you see? What will you learn? Who will you become because of it? Lifestyle. What does a day in your future look like? What does your morning feel like? What kind of choices do you make automatically? You're not designing fantasy. You're designing identity. The life will follow. Why this works so well? Let me tell you the secret behind this protocol. A strong identity acts like a magnet. It pulls you forward. It reduces resistance. It eliminates second guessing. It gives direction to your discipline. When you know exactly who you're becoming, your daily choices become simple. Would the future me eat this? Would the future me procrastinate today? Would the future me keep this friendship? Would the future me skip this skill? Would the future me spend this money foolishly? Suddenly, life doesn't feel overwhelming. It feels directed, focused, intentional. And here is the best part. The clearer the future, the stronger the present. When your identity is tied to who you're becoming, your habits take on meaning. Your discipline gains energy. Your sacrifices become joyful, even exciting, because you know exactly where they're taking you. The tools for designing your future self. Now, let me give you a few tools, simple but powerful. 1. A vision board. Not for fantasy, but for identity. Put images that represent your future health, wealth, and lifestyle, not to impress, but to remind. 2. A journal entry. Write a letter from your future self. Describe your life 5 years from now as if it's already happening. 3. A decision list. List 10 decisions you must make today to become that person. Cut out what doesn't belong. Add what does. 4. A never again list. This one is powerful. Write down the behaviors, habits, and environments you will never return to ever. 5. A 90-day identity upgrade plan. Break down your 5-year picture into the next 90 days. Not everything, just the first steps. Because remember, you don't build the future in 5 years. You build it in 90-day blocks. The power of a designed future. Once you create this future identity, something remarkable happens. Your self-image stops being defined by your past. It stops being limited by what you failed at. It stops shrinking to fit your history. Instead, it expands to match your destiny. And suddenly, you're no longer living out the script someone else gave you as a child or a teenager. You're living out the script you designed intentionally, powerfully, beautifully. This is the future self protocol. And it has transformed lives, not because it tells you what to do, but because it tells you who you are becoming. Now we move to the final part of our journey. Let me offer you a closing challenge, a challenge that can turn this conversation into a revolution in your life. Well, we've come to the final part of our time together. And if you've stayed with me this long, I want to congratulate you. Because listening is one thing, but staying tells me you're serious. Staying tells me you're searching. Staying tells me you're ready. So let me leave you with a challenge that may become the turning point in your life. We began tonight with a simple idea. Your life obeys your self-image. And we walked through how identity shapes your behavior, how behavior shapes your results, and how results reinforce your identity. We talked about the roots of your self-image, the blueprint for building a new one, the power of proof, and the obedience principle. And finally, we designed a future worth becoming. Now, here's the closing thought. If you will change, everything will change for you. Not your boss, not your spouse, not the government, not the economy, because the moment you change, your habits change, your expectations change, your standards change, your relationships change, your opportunities change. Your entire world begins to shift. And it all begins with a simple commitment. Become the person worth becoming. Let me give you a few final assignments. Simple but powerful. 1. Write a new self-image tonight. Not tomorrow, not next week. Tonight. Write the person you intend to become. Make it clear. Make it honest. Make it inspiring. 2. Act on one promise before the day ends. One proof. One behavior that supports your new identity. It doesn't have to be big, but it must be real. 3. Begin the 30-day identity proof challenge. Every day, gather evidence. Identity is built through proof, not hope. 4. Protect your future. Guard your inputs, your time, your energy. If it doesn't match your future, you let it go. 5. Ask for help. I've said this for many years. Humans are unique, but even the strongest among us could use a little help. Do your part, and life will do its part. Do your part, and God will do his part. It's a two-way street. Let me close with a little story I've told many times. There was a man who took a piece of land, nothing but a rock pile, and turned it into a beautiful garden. People came from everywhere to admire it. One visitor said, "My sir, you and the good Lord have done a wonderful job with this garden." The gardener smiled and said, "Well, I understand that. But you should have seen this place a couple of years ago when God had it all by himself." What's the point? We play a part. You play a part. And when you play your part with commitment, discipline, and identity, life responds. So tonight, I want to thank you. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your willingness to think a new thought. Thank you for the courage to rewrite the picture of who you are. I look forward to the day when I hear your story. The day when you say, "Jim, my life changed the moment I changed the picture." Because it can. And if you do your part, it will. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you the very best. Become the person worth becoming. Good night, and God bless.